a small village where everyone knows everyone, and reputation means everything. In this close-knit community lived a girl who was absolutely beloved by all. At just 17, she was the kind of daughter every parent dreams of having. She greeted elders with genuine warmth, helped neighbors without being asked, and carried herself with such grace that other parents would point to her and say, "Why can't you be more like her?" Her father was a respected village chief, a man whose word carried weight in every conversation. When he spoke, people listened. He was proud, dignified, and absolutely adored his daughter. She was his greatest joy, the light of his later years. Her mother was equally cherished in the community, known for her kindness and beauty. This was a family that seemed blessed in every way possible. But life has a way of testing even the strongest foundations. One morning, everything changed. The girl who usually woke up singing suddenly became quiet. She was constantly tired, couldn't keep food down, and would rush outside every morning to be sick. Her mother noticed immediately. Something was terribly wrong. After days of observation, her mother confronted her one quiet evening. The conversation was gentle but persistent. The girl insisted it was just malaria, nothing more. But a mother's intuition is rarely wrong. The next day, they visited the village healer, and the news that came back shattered their world completely. She was pregnant, 6 weeks along. When her mother asked who the father was, the girl broke down in tears but refused to speak. No amount of pleading could get her to reveal the truth. She simply said, "No one would believe me if I told you." When her father learned the news, his reaction was explosive. His voice thundered so loudly that birds fled the trees, and neighbors came running to see what was happening. He was consumed with rage and shame. In his mind, his perfect daughter had betrayed everything their family stood for. The entire village gathered as drama unfolded in their compound. People whispered and speculated, but no one could understand how this had happened. The girl had never been seen with any boy. She had always been so careful, so pure. Standing before a crowd of onlookers, her father made a decision that would haunt him for years to come. With tears of anger and disappointment streaming down his face, he disowned her completely. "If you want to live like an adult, then go live like one," he declared. "You are no longer my daughter." Her mother begged and pleaded, falling to her knees beside her daughter. Even his best friend, who had recently returned from overseas, tried to intervene, but the chief's mind was made up. His pride had been wounded too deeply, and so, at 17 and pregnant, she was forced to leave everything she had ever known. With nothing but a small bag of clothes, a little money, and some food from her mother, she walked out of her village with no destination in mind. The same people who had once praised her now whispered cruel things as she passed. Her journey into the unknown was terrifying. She walked until darkness fell, finally reaching a bustling town where no one knew her story. Exhausted and hungry, she found shelter in front of a closed shop, eating spoiled food because she had no other choice. The next morning, she woke to find a crowd staring at her. Among them was an older woman whose eyes held compassion instead of judgment. This woman, known as Mama Udu, offered to take her in. Despite her fears, the girl had no other options. For months, Mama Udu treated her like a daughter. She provided food, shelter, and comfort during the most vulnerable time of her life. When the baby was born during a stormy night, it was Mama Udu who held her hand and helped her through the pain. She gave birth to a beautiful daughter and named her Adora, meaning joy. But even this sanctuary wasn't what it seemed. One night, she overheard a conversation that chilled her to the bone. Mama Udu was negotiating to sell her baby to a wealthy man for a substantial sum of money. The woman who had shown her such kindness was actually a child trafficker. That very night, she escaped with her newborn daughter, running into the darkness once again. Her next encounter was with a well-dressed businessman who offered help when she was desperate and hungry. For months, Anthony provided for them both, and she worked as his housekeeper in gratitude. But gradually, his true intentions became clear. He expected her to repay his kindness in ways that made her skin crawl. Once again, she had to flee in the middle of the night, this time with a crying baby in her arms. This pattern continued. Kind faces hiding dark intentions, wolves dressed as sheep, predators disguising themselves as saviors. Each escape made her stronger, more aware, but also more broken inside. Finally, she found genuine refuge at a small church where the pastor's wife, known as Mommy Peace, took them in without expecting anything in return. For the first time since leaving her father's house, she felt truly safe. The church community embraced them both, and slowly, she began to rebuild her life. She learned to bake, starting with simple cakes and pastries. Her talent was natural, and soon she was selling her creations outside the church after services. People loved her food, and gradually, her confidence returned. Her daughter grew into a bright, happy child, and life seemed to be looking up. But even here, danger lurked in expensive clothing and sweet promises. A wealthy woman named Auntie Clara began frequenting the church, always buying her pastries and showering her with compliments. She spoke of opportunities, of helping young women achieve greatness, of a life beyond selling food on the street. Her mansion was impressive, filled with beautiful young women who seemed to live luxuriously, but something felt wrong. The girls' smiles never reached their eyes, and their laughter seemed forced. When she finally discovered the truth, that Auntie Clara was running a high-end trafficking operation, connecting desperate young women with powerful men, she knew she had to act. Instead of just running away this time, she decided to fight back. She gathered evidence, recorded conversations, and documented everything. Then she did something incredibly brave. She went public. Her video confession went viral overnight, with no makeup, no filters, just raw honesty. She exposed not only Auntie Clara but an entire network of corruption involving politicians, businessmen, and religious leaders. The response was overwhelming. People sent money, messages of support, and most importantly, other victims found the courage to speak out. Using the donations she received, she built a legitimate pastry business empire. Her company employed other single mothers, providing them with dignity and good wages. She became wealthy, respected, and influential. Everything she could never have imagined during those dark, early days. But success couldn't fill the hole in her heart where her family used to be. 3 years after being cast out, she was invited to cater a high-profile wedding. As a successful businesswoman, she was not just a vendor but a guest of honor. When she arrived at the elegant venue with her daughter, now a beautiful 3-year-old, she was shocked to see a familiar face on the wedding banner. The groom was Mr. Andrew, her father's best friend, the man who had tried to convince her father to forgive her all those years ago. More importantly, he was the man who had violated her when she was just a teenager, the real father of her daughter. The truth came pouring out. In front of the horrified bride, she revealed what had really happened that day when her parents weren't home. How this trusted family friend had taken advantage of her youth and innocence, then threatened her into silence. How he had stood by quietly, while her own father disowned her for a crime he had committed. The wedding was cancelled. By evening, police officers were escorting Mr. Andrew away in handcuffs as shocked guests recorded everything on their phones. The story exploded across social media, finally vindicating her after all these years. When the news reached her village, the whispers started again, but this time, they were whispers of shame for how they had treated an innocent girl. 1 week later, she returned home in a luxury car with her daughter. The reunion with her mother was tearful and healing. Her father, now a broken man who had lost everything to Mr. Andrew's financial schemes, fell to his knees begging forgiveness. She didn't return with bitterness, she returned with healing. She paid off her father's debts, bought back their lost land, and restored their family's honor. The girl they had thrown away had become the woman who saved them all. Today, she runs multiple businesses and a foundation that helps abused women and children. Her story became a movement that continues to inspire people to speak their truth, no matter how painful. The moral of this incredible story is powerful. Never judge someone's entire story by the single chapter you happen to witness. Everyone deserves a chance to rise again, and sometimes the people we cast aside become the very ones who lift us up. What did this story teach you about the power of resilience and truth? Drop your thoughts below. I love reading every single comment, and if this story moved you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it today.